Watch this.
I will stand by Idaho's elections, no question.
Idaho's top election official has no problem with absentee ballots. The president, not so much, making that very clear on social media. So what does that mean for next year's election? Crunching numbers for the gem state can be a pretty stiff, starchy gig. Well, Idaho's treasurer is sticking to brand and putting her own tuber twist on America's 250th. Speaking of potatoes, and we do, often, because it's Idaho, other than the fact they rhyme, you'd be hard-pressed to find a connection between potatoes and tomatoes. But it's there, and we're going way back to prove it. President Donald Trump went into his summit last week with Russian President Vladimir Putin, adamant about a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine war, saying it was his main goal. He said he would be disappointed and even suggested severe consequences if it didn't happen. Well, Trump walked out of that 3-hour meeting Friday without a ceasefire deal, but he did walk away with another nugget. He told Fox News about it later that day, saying, quote, "One of the most interesting things Putin told him during the summit had to do with mail-in ballots. Vladimir Putin," he said, smart guy, said you can't have an honest election with mail-in voting. President Trump said Putin told him, quote, "Your election was rigged because you have mail-in voting," end quote, and then added, "No country has mail-in voting," which is why on Monday, well, we saw this social media post from President Trump saying he's working on an executive order to end mail-in ballots. And while we're at it, he said, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines. Trump wrote a lot of other things in that social media post, including, quote, "Elections can never be honest with mail-in ballots voting," and everybody, in particular the Democrats, well, they know this. Well, so we thought we'd ask, not everybody, but Idaho's somebody who knows a thing or two about our elections. That would be Secretary of State Phil McGrain. More than 182,000 Idahoans voted absentee in the November 2024 presidential election, second only to the pandemic election of 2020. And every election, we hover around 15% of those who vote by absentee. So does that mean Idaho's elections are, quote, dishonest? Well, Secretary McGrain has made it clear many times they are not, and he reiterated that today.
Voting should be easy, voting should be accurate, and voting should be secure. And part of that process is ensuring absentee voting. In a state like Idaho, there are very rural parts of the state where people need to vote by mail because that's how you can get access to a ballot. It doesn't matter what methods we're using, whether someone votes in person on election day, they vote early at their local early voting location, or they vote by mail. It's making sure that we have the safeguards in place to ensure that everyone can have confidence in the accuracy and the security of the election.
Okay, so that leads to this. Remember, the states are merely, quote, an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do.
Yeah, I think this is really simple. You know, I feel very proud about Idaho's elections. We truly have one of the best systems in the entire country. I don't want any other state or the federal government telling Idaho how to run its elections, nor do I feel like we should be telling anybody else. And in this situation, one of the things that has made us so successful as a country, especially in terms of the resilience, I was talking to the Attorney General this morning about it, is the fact that we have each of the states determining how they should vote for themselves. I think that's going to continue. I think both the Constitution supports that and all the states across the country, whether that's Republicans or Democrats, feel pretty strongly about that.
It's in the Constitution.
It is in the Constitution. It actually is specifically in the Constitution in Article 1 saying that the state legislature shall determine the manner, time, and place of elections being held in their states.
And you're planning on having absentee ballots for the 2026 midterms?
Nothing has changed about Idaho's elections. Idaho will continue to determine how we run our elections, and we really, all as Idahoans, should feel proud of the election system we have.
Secretary McGrain pointed out today this social media post sort of came as a surprise, especially since he told us he's had a close working relationship with the Trump administration since he took office, specifically with regard to elections. You might remember his testimony on Capitol Hill on verifying citizenship status. We covered this back in April. McGrain also said he hopes this post, well, it might open a window of opportunity to reform elections, not just in Idaho, but in other states. For example, making it more common to pre-process absentee ballots to speed up results on election night, which is something Idaho did in 2020 for the very first time. By the way, 34 countries around the globe vote by mail. They call it postal voting. It's also worth pointing out Mr. Trump actually voted by mail twice in 2020, even handing his primary ballot to a third party to be turned in, despite railing against that process before and since. He even encouraged his voters to cast their ballots early and by mail leading up to the 2024 election. Okay, so you can file this under the So Idaho category. Today happens to be National Potato Day. It's the main veg of the gem state, and it's the origin, the gem state is, of most spuds in the United States. About a third are Idaho famous. And the face of it all, that would be Spuddy Buddy. Created in the early 80s, he got a makeover in the mid-90s and has been spreading the good word on Idaho potato products since. But he's also about to be part of something with a much deeper history. And that comes with several more makeovers. A revolutionary refresh, if you will, courtesy of the Gem State Treasurer. Joe Paris introduced us to Betsy Tots and the rest of the Tater Troop.
Smiling spuds around the table to set the tone for celebration.
I do love history, but I love it more after having done this.
This is a creation of Idaho State Treasurer Julie Ellsworth.
They're the revolutionary Spuddy Buddy ambassadors.
An Idaho angle into the America 250 celebration, a creation coined while part of an idea session to celebrate the anniversary of Paul Revere's ride back in April.
And my question was, well, who's going to be Paul Revere and ride around the Capitol? And it just kind of landed like a thud, like perhaps there's something wrong with me. And I thought there needs to be Paul Revere. So I took my Spuddy Buddy from the Idaho Potato Commission. He helps little children tour the Capitol. And I took him home that weekend and I turned him into Spud Revere.
It was quickly clear. Spuds mixed with American history was a popular potato product.
And they wanted their picture taken with him. And little kids, I mean, my grandchildren wanted to learn the story of Paul Revere.
Treasurer Ellsworth got to work, creating a roster of revolutionaries with the mission: education and engagement on American history.
I can't be every place in the state, but these little guys can. We're collecting signatures from everybody all over the state of Idaho so that we can add their signatures to a replica of the Declaration of Independence that we will hang from the oculite in the rotunda of the Capitol and then just unfurl it. So these guys are very busy. Their social schedules are booked.
George Washington Tater, James Mattis Spud, Alexander Hamill Tater, Betsy Tots, just to name a few. They've already traveled across the state, but they all started in the hands of the state treasurer.
Go-to kit. Yeah, I can grab this and think, yeah, I'll be able to sew a button on. They're all handmade. Yeah, I designed all of them. I took pictures I studied their personalities and pictures on the internet, and I have a document that shows which ones they're patterned after.
The intricate work is a throwback to her childhood.
As a child, I was the one sibling that could not get along with anybody, and so I would sent to the basement with a sewing machine and a spool of white thread and a spool of black thread. And it's a tribute to my mother, because she could have just been driven crazy by me, but instead she channeled that energy. And I'm talking like I was second grade, and I taught myself to sew.
Now an expert with the numbers for the state of Idaho, Ellsworth once had animated aspirations.
I wanted at one point in my life to work for the Muppets because you could create a sarcastic personality and the image. And I think this is about as close to the Muppets as you can get.
It's a labor of love.
My table eventually looks like this. See, I've got Molly's stuff cut out. I kind of just work during the day, and then I go home and make potatoes.
And it takes time.
A potato takes about 10 hours. Oh. Yeah, because by the time I've sewn buttons on and coiffed the hair, it takes, I don't rush it because I just really love it.
And that work continues.
I brought in today a little Anna Strong. She was the Culper spy in the Revolution. I love her story. She hung out her laundry, which sent messages to the Patriots of where the British were. She never was caught. So she's the one that I'm currently making.
And yes, there are favorites, like Spudjamin Franklin.
Put those little glasses on that kind of squished his face, and oh my gosh, it looked like Benjamin Franklin. I sat him down on a bench in my house, and my husband looked at it and instantly, that's Benjamin Franklin. I really like that one.
All the Potato Pals share a mission, connecting Idahoans with the revolutionaries that put America on the map 250 years ago. Signed, sealed, and delivered on the Declaration of Independence.
You know, I want people all over the state to be involved with this. This is not something to watch, the celebration. This is something to participate in. And so they really do provide the opportunity for everybody in Idaho to sign that commemorative declaration.
And the treasurer tells me that there is a call out to all the potatoes that they need to come back to Boise. And apparently they have not been hitting their mark in terms of their schedule, Brian, but there's going to be a special Patriots Day event on September 11th at the state capitol. All the spuds will be there if people wanted to go check them out.
And photo opportunities will be available.
Yeah, they're very popular. Right. They've been in parades, they've been at capitals, they've been at meetings. They actually went with Secretary McGrain, who you just talked to. They went with him on a road trip to Pocatello.
I hear they're very nice in meetings. They just sit there quietly.
Don't. A bunch of potatoes.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Did we mention it's National Potato Day? Well, like the old Lay's potato chip slogan, there's no way we could just get away with just one Spud story. The unofficial holiday honors one of the world's most versatile and important foods. And here in Idaho, we don't just honor the potato, we put it on license plates, on T-shirts, and we depend on it for our economy.
Potato Days are great to recognize that potato is grown throughout the world. Even though it might have originated in Central and South America, even Southwest U.S. has some wild ancestors of potato. Potato is a staple crop. It provides food security, it provides jobs throughout the world, and it's a great day to celebrate the potato.
Yes, but there is something else to celebrate during this holiday. Hunter, new research shows Spud's story may have actually, I guess, sprouted from something else? Is that correct?
It is so true. It's a quest researchers have been trying to figure out for several years, and we didn't know where the whole potato lineage came from. And the spud that we celebrate might never have existed without an ancient plant mashed up millions of years ago. Researchers say the potato comes from a hybridization of two different plants. 30% comes from tomato plant and 40% from this E. tubersum, a species of wild potato that doesn't have tubers, and that's what we call potatoes.
When they think that hybridization event happened, it was like about 10 million, 9 million years ago. One thing that was kind of interesting is they think that's when sort of seasons happened, they started to be regular seasons on the planet. So maybe that's why they developed the tuber, because, to survive through that off season, perhaps. Maybe that was the selection pressure there. The other thing that this study suggested is when the Andes kind of increased in elevation. They called it the sudden uplift. So that might have forced sort of evolution of the potato as well in that instance.
How cool, right? Well, there is a lot more to this story, like what this means for growers and the potato here in Idaho. Well, coming up at 6, we're going to talk to researchers from the University of Idaho about how this will help guide disease prevention and a changing climate. Brian?
Okay, so I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around this. 10 to 9 million years ago, 9 to 10 million.
Yeah.
Like people did this on purpose? Is that what he's saying?
It didn't, it happened naturally. It was
okay.
the ecosystem, like plants evolve. That's pretty much
Yeah.
what happened is they saw those changing climates and it just kind of meshed into one, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so and then humans kind of took advantage of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
picked
all
it
right.
up from there.
So now instead of potato, I guess we could say potato
Tomato.
because they're linked.
Yeah.
See? When we did that. We'll see it at 6. Thanks, Hunter.
Yeah.
Oh, some stunning skies lately over central and southern Idaho. And with a few clouds in play over places like McCall this evening, we may see another beautiful sunset. Big headline, though, for us today and for the next week or so really is the heat, the return of abnormally hot temperatures. We're at 93 in Boise. So far, the heat for today has not come to to be as hot as we expected yesterday. I thought we'd be a little bit closer to the century mark. I'm okay to be a little off in this direction, though. Cooler than we had expected. 93 103 right now. 96 in Twin Falls, though. That's just 1 degree shy of tying a record high there today, and in the mountains up around 90. So yes, it is toasty everywhere. We've had pockets of wind throughout the day as well. So you can see from Boise through the foothills, the Boise Mountains on up towards Stanley. We're seeing maybe 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. So that breeze will stick around through sunset. Overall, skies remain clear, conditions quiet overall. We stay in the 90s until 8 o'clock tonight. Our sunset 8:41, and then we start seeing things get more comfortable. If you have after dinner plans, maybe tonight is your night to take in the Western Idaho Fair. Plan on some hot conditions, and then we just kind of rinse and repeat every afternoon. Tomorrow, we will see things cool off just a touch. I put cooler in quotes because it's only going to be maybe a 3 to 4 degree temperature drop over today as this system skirts by to our north. High pressure really is our big dominant weather feature for the next several days. It'll keep us hot and mostly dry. We do have monsoon moisture, though, that will start sneaking up and around that ridge. Enough tomorrow that we may see a couple showers and storms right outside Twin Falls. So here's our future cast. 10:30 tonight. This particular model is showing one little shower north of McCall tonight. That could come to fruition. I think it looks a little more likely, but still chances are pretty slim. A couple rumbles of thunder and quick rounds of rain from Jerome and Twin Falls eastward tomorrow as we see that plume of moisture coming in from the south. We have sunshine in play for the Treasure Valley, though, and that will be the case for the next several days. So until we look to the weekend, things are dry and hot, and then over the weekend, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we start seeing more and more of that moisture from the south creeping in. Temperatures will remain very warm, but storm chances do increase by the end of the weekend. Will it be measurable rainfall? Too hard to tell at this point, but still does look like things could get a little bit active again about a week from now. Looking ahead to tomorrow, though, sunshine really is dominant. We'll start off in the mid-60s, another very comfortable morning. A hot afternoon. We'll end in the low 90s across the Treasure Valley. The other thing we're watching for tomorrow, the possibility of some smoke filtering in, mostly from the south. There's a huge wildfire burning in northern Nevada with southerly flow in play that could pump some smoke into south central Idaho, so a hazy horizon possible, especially from Mountain Home eastward tomorrow. Temperatures across the region early on will be in the 60s for the Snake Plain on your Wednesday. 58 in Haley. Will wake up to 50 in McCall. Another scorcher tomorrow, though temperatures do back off a tiny bit. We'll be in those low to mid 90s across the Treasure and Magic Valley tomorrow. After that, we'll see things hold steady on Thursday. Then a spike in our heat Friday, Saturday takes us back up closer to 100 degrees. Will we get there in Boise? Maybe not, but still, it'll be a very hot kickoff to the weekend.
We are still waiting on a cause of a deadly fire in Caldwell that took the lives of several family pets. And Nampa taxpayers, well, they're off the hook when it comes to covering the costs of running the Ford Idaho Center. Here's Abby Wilt with today's 411.
Several pets are dead after a garage fire in Caldwell destroyed a family's home. It happened at 5 o'clock last night on North Plateau Avenue. Caldwell says the family safely got out of the home before the fire spread. However, the family's 2 dogs, bearded dragon, and 2 birds died in the fire. Investigators are trying to determine the cause of the fire, but they say it appears to be an accident. Lori Vallow Daybell is back in Idaho to continue serving her life sentences here. This comes after Vallow Daybell filed for an appeal in both of Arizona convictions. Earlier this year, Vallow Daybell was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder in the death of her 4th husband, Charles Vallow, and her ex-nephew-in-law, Brandon. In May, she also filed an appeal in her Idaho trial where she was found guilty of killing her 2 children, JJ and Tylee. In that appeal, she alleges procedural violations as well as issues with her competency ruling. Nampa City Council is not putting a levy override on the ballot this November. The levy would have raised property taxes to help cover a $22 million operating deficit of the Ford Idaho Center. Last night, council members said they did not want to put the strain on taxpayers. City leaders believe transferring ownership could help avoid a property tax increase, and the College of Western Idaho has shown interest in taking over the venue. The 2025 Boise Pride Festival is short on funding due to less corporate sponsorship than in years past. The festival says some businesses are choosing not to donate because of anti-DEI objectives, and others can't afford the donations because of budget cuts. This year will be the festival's 35th year in the City of Trees, celebrating at Ann Morrison Park on September 6th and 7th. They started in 1989 as a way to give the LGBTQ+ community an accepting space all year round. In 2024, Boise Pride raised $440,000 through corporate sponsorships. This year, they've only raised just over $250,000. That's a 43% decrease from last year. For those interested in helping Boise Pride, they can still do that. We'll have information in this story on how you can help at ktvb.com. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Abby Wilt.
All right, Bill Jay would like you to know he has great confidence with the checks and balances Idaho has for elections. What concerns him, he says, are states that automatically complete voter registration when someone 18 or older gets a driver's license. But even then, it still has to be verified. Their eligibility still has to be verified with the elections office. So there's still a checks and balance there. More concerned about those who send ballots to anyone registered. Idaho does it correctly, making people request an absentee ballot. There is a difference. States like Oregon, they've been doing this since 1998. And if you think there was a major problem, maybe we would have heard about it by now, but we haven't. Phil McGrain reflects integrity and commands respect. We need people like the secretary to call out Trump, says Kelly. I fear for my country when our own president is so hypocritical about voting, then taking the word of Putin, a murderous dictator who suppresses free elections in Russia. That's what we're dealing with, I guess.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.